Hello students and welcome to Crop Science 6049. In today's lesson we are going to look at mechanisms of water uptake by plants. By the end of this lesson you must be able to explain the mechanisms of water uptake by plants. In plants, water moves by the following mechanisms: osmosis, diffusion, and bulk flow. Let's take a look at osmosis. What is osmosis? Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from their region of high concentration to their region of low concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. This is a specialized case of diffusion. It represents the diffusion of water across a membrane from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. Osmotic pressure is the pressure that causes the diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane. It increases due to an increase in the concentration of solutes in the solution. What are the three types of osmotic solutions? There are three types of osmotic solutions. That is the isotonic solution, the hypotonic solution, and the hypertonic solution. An isotonic solution is when the solute concentration is balanced with the concentration inside the plant cell. In an isotonic solution, the water will move between the solutions, but the rates are the same in both directions. Thus, the water movement is balanced between the inside of the plant cell and the outside of the plant cell. Next, there is a hypotonic solution. A hypotonic solution is when the solute concentration is lower than the solute concentration inside the plant cell. In a hypotonic solution, water moves into the cell and can cause a plant cell to swell. The last type of an osmotic solution is the hypertonic solution. A hypertonic solution is when the solute concentration outside the cell is higher than the concentration inside the cell. In a hypertonic solution, the water moves out of the cell and causes the cell to shrivel. So what are the effects of osmosis in plant cells? Plant cells are enclosed by a rigid cell wall. When the plant cell is placed in a hypotonic solution, it takes up water by osmosis and starts to swell, but the cell wall prevents it from bursting. The plant cell is said to have become turgid, that is, swollen and hard. The pressure inside the cell rises until the internal pressure is equal to the pressure outside. This pressure prevents the further intake of water. Turgidity is very important to plants as it helps with the maintenance of rigidity and stability of the plant tissue. And as each cell exerts a turgor pressure on its neighbor, it creates plant tissue tension, which allows the green parts of the plant to stand up into the sunlight. When a plant cell is placed in a hypertonic solution, the water from the inside of the cell cytoplasm diffuses out and the plant cell is said to have become flaccid. If the plant cell is observed under a microscope, it will be noticed that the cytoplasm has shrunk and pulled away from the cell wall. This phenomenon is called plasmolysis. The process is reversed as soon as the cells are transferred into a hypotonic solution, a process known as deplasmolysis. When a plant cell is placed in an isotonic solution, a phenomenon known as incipient plasmolysis occurs. But what is incipient plasmolysis? Incipient simply means about to be. Although the cell is not plasmolysed, it is not turgid either. When this happens, the green parts of the plant drop and are unable to hold the plant leaves up in the sunlight. So what are the factors that affect osmosis? I'm going to look at two factors only. The first one is concentration gradient. The greater the concentration difference, the faster the rate of osmosis. So if there is a greater difference between two areas in terms of concentration of water, there is going to be greater osmosis. The other factor is temperature. The higher the temperature, the faster the rate of osmosis. So if temperature is optimum, water molecules will move a little bit faster than when temperature is a little bit lower than the optimum temperature. Next, we want to look at diffusion. Diffusion is the net random movement of individual water molecules from one area to another. The molecules move from their area of high concentration to their area of low concentration, following a concentration gradient. And during diffusion, water is not passing through a semi-permeable membrane. Another way of stating this is that the molecules move from an area of high free energy, that is higher concentration, to one of low energy, that is lower concentration. The net movement stops when there is a dynamic equilibrium. Diffusion is important in plant-mineral relations because it is involved in the movement of water and mineral nutrients to the root surfaces. Next, we want to look at the factors that influence the rate of diffusion. The first factor that I'm going to look at is the concentration gradient. The rate of diffusion is directly proportional to the concentration gradient. The greater the difference in concentration between two areas, the greater the rate of diffusion. Thus, when the gradient is zero, there will be no net diffusion. Diffusion will only occur so long as a concentration gradient exists. The next factor that I'm going to look at is resistance. The rate of diffusion is indirectly proportional to resistance. The greater the resistance to diffusion, the lower the rate of diffusion. Resistance simply refers to anything that reduces the rate of diffusion. The next factor is the distance traveled by the water molecules. The rate of diffusion is inversely proportional to the distance traveled. The greater the distance to diffusion, the lower the rate of diffusion. The next factor is molecular speed, and this factor is directly proportional to temperature and indirectly related to molecular weight. How is it indirectly related to molecular weight? Heavier particles move more slowly than lighter particles. The next factor is temperature. As temperature increases, it also increases the rate of molecular movement. Therefore, it increases also the rate of diffusion. The next factor is pressure. Pressure increases the speed of molecules, and therefore it also increases the rate of diffusion. The last mechanism that I'm going to look at is bulk flow. Bulk flow is also known as mass transfer or mass flow. It is the movement of water down a pressure gradient. The molecules move from high to low pressure following a pressure gradient. So what is happening here is water is moving from where it has more pressure in a plant to where it has less pressure. A good example is when you turn on a tap, water comes out. This occurs because the water in the tap is under pressure relative to the air outside the tap. So if there was more pressure outside the tap, water wouldn't flow out of the tap. Or if the pressure that is outside the tap and that is inside the tap were equal, there wouldn't be any net water movement. So bulk flow is simply the movement of water from where it has high pressure, and this high pressure is being caused by the amount of water that is available, to where pressure is low. And pressure is being low, why? Because there is less water that is available. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, additions and subtractions, please write them in the comment section. If you have benefited from this lesson, click the like button.